Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's blog post. Some interesting events this week, and clearly, as we find ourselves in December and the big push to get all the loans in that we're going to be able to get closed by the end of this month for our numbers this year, and for those around us who need help reaching their numbers. The information, I guess it's not surprising, but in some cases it is surprising. And it comes from the Federal Reserve. And this is in the middle of the fact that we've got a lot of information coming out this week and next week that's going to really shape things up going into the new year. And I just wanted to make sure that we were on top of the information and that you were prepared yourselves, as well as for the people around you, to have an intelligent conversation and where you can resource the information that will take into help prove your points or show people the reality. And that comment is the fact that Jerome Powell the other day came out and spoke to the fact that there is no more transitory inflation. The fact that since last April, the Fed has looked at the data and spread a message that said the inflation numbers that we were seeing were temporary in nature. And the fact that once the pandemic was over and people went back to work and the supply chain got fixed or caught up, that inflation would go away and things would return to normal. And they use the word transitory as a definition of what we were experiencing. And a lot of people in the markets, many economists, people like even lowly people like myself, were trying to wrap their minds around how are things going to go back to the way they were when prices are going higher, wages are going higher. These things, the constant amount of money flowing into the system, that how was this a temporary thing, and how were prices ever going to go back to where they were in April? It just didn't seem like it was plausible, and yet that was the message as inflation numbers continued to rise, as became plenty obvious to people going to the store or filling up their gas tank or doing whatever it was they were doing. It wasn't hard to wrap your mind around. Things were getting more expensive, and the word transitory was out there. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, we all knew sooner or later that wasn't going to hold up, and somebody was going to have to step up to the plate and said, we were wrong, and that's not correct, and inflation is real. Well, we kind of got that this week. Jerome Powell didn't really come out and say, hey, we at the Fed made all this up. It's not true. He kind of gave a lame excuse of the fact that the rest of the world was stupid, that they didn't understand, or we didn't understand what the word transitory meant, or how the people at the Fed meant transitory. They used the word to describe transitioning from low and adequate inflation, along the targets of what they were looking at, to transitioning into much higher rapid inflation that was beyond what they would like to see. And so he didn't come out and say, hey, back in April, we were full of it, we made mistakes. They basically just tried to acknowledge the fact that inflation isn't going away, and pretty much said that they expect to see these trends in inflation continue through 2022, and that they were going to alter their position when it came to a lot of the quantitative easing that they were doing. They were going to escalate the taper. And again, it is what it is. I mean, sooner or later, the elephant in the room stands there, looks back at you, and you've got to address it. And he did. Now, for me, it's really important to understand that these things are out there, and when things arise like this, we have to talk about it and understand that where we are now is we're in a market, and Rates are going to go higher. We're going to deal with this inflation at some point. Economic news at any point is going to be the thing that pushes this. And it could be slow, it could be rapid, but we do know, based upon recent events, that volatility is certainly here to stay, and the trend is going to be higher. And could there be big swings in the market? Absolutely. We've seen that the last few weeks. Huge moves in the bond markets, huge moves in the treasury markets. And they vacillated all over the place, and it's become very challenging. But understand where the triggers lie. Today, we're going to get unemployment numbers. Tomorrow, we're going to get the November jobs report. Next Tuesday, we're going to be looking at economic data, wage and hour numbers, and productivity reports. And next Friday, we're going to get the CPI report. Some of those, all of those can be triggers to push the market, and may very well or may not, depending upon what the news says. But it's not a matter of if rates are going to go higher, it's a matter of when rates are going to go higher. And we've talked about this since April, and I've told you and I've shared with my clients, it's all very simple. You don't have to have your nose in the computer or your phone watching economic data and sitting with pins and needles waiting for something to happen. The reality of it is, if you like the rate that you can have today, lock it, be done, and let's move on. And explain to the customers that 1/8 of a point or 1/4 of a percent in interest rate or something along those lines is probably not going to blow their deal. And if they are sensitive to that number, then maybe they ought to look at a price point lower than where they are, because again, this isn't about interest rate as much as it is about monthly payment to the customer. And let's be honest, rates trending through the 3s and heading to the 4s is not the end of the world. So yeah, the people who were waiting to refinance or buy something when rates were, 1.5 missed the boat. Sorry to say, but rates have been going higher and trending higher in a volatile market since last January. So, it's not surprising that we're having this, perspective that, don't worry about it, we're going to be fine, we're going to go back down. And I'll be honest with you, I don't see any circumstance by which rates are not going to remain volatile and continue to trend higher, at least for the foreseeable future. The Fed's going to get done tapering sometime in May or June. The markets are going to react how the markets react. And who knows what's going to happen. A lot of the inflation that we're seeing right now is precipitated by higher gas and oil prices, as well as a ton of money, trillions and trillions of dollars in government spending into the marketplace. And if there's trillions and trillions more, then there's going to be more pressure on prices and the supply chain. And as long as they're, slowing down production of oil and natural gas and coal and whatever, energy prices are going to continue to rise. That's going to affect everybody across the board in everything that we do and everything that we see. It's just the reality of where we are. So pay attention to what's happening. This is not gloom and doom. It's just wake up to the fact that, we're in the 3s. We're going to be heading to the 4s. We're going to see days of really crazy, volatility. And if you're going to sit there and watch it, like, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And for those of you out there who are sitting on huge numbers of loans that are floating, I've said this forever, you're an idiot. There is no reason in God's green earth for you to be floating anything for any reason, because it doesn't do anybody any good. The possibility of you saving a couple of cents or a couple of dollars in a monthly mortgage payment versus what could happen the other way and what they risk going the other way over the long term is ridiculous. It's not worth it. So if you like it, lock it and be done. Pay attention to the numbers and the news that's coming out. Get where you're apprised of where the situation is. And worst case scenario, just watch the vlog posts every week and I'll keep you apprised as to what's going on. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Looking forward to a great holiday season. We'll talk to you again next week. Take care.